somehow acquired snake shad.
It was in my bag this whole time.
Are you recording already?
Yeah, but I can crop it. So, hey everyone, Gregor Arturo here with my love Nico, and I've been wanting to make this video for a while to talk about how to use the wands with body work and energy work and several different applications for them. And so I've demonstrated before how you can use it with as an extension of yourself with dance, with Qi and Qigong, and moving the wand in a specific motion, and to give a relapse of how the wands work on the basic principle. As we have a quartz crystal here, and I also use crystals such as smoky and citrine and amethyst and tourmaline, as they're all also piezoelectric. And the beautiful thing about piezoelectricity is that any type of acoustic vibration that hits this crystal, it causes the crystal to flex, and it converts the acoustic frequency or waveform into an electrical waveform. That's half the wave, or half the frequency of the acoustic. And so this relates to, say, a transformer at a telephone pole. If you're hearing it vibrate, it's vibrating at 120 hertz, twice the 60 hertz of the electrical frequency. And so this steps down the acoustic waveforms into electrical waveforms. The copper is a mirror. It reflects the electrical distribution of that waveform within the crystal onto the copper, and it focalizes it down onto this tip in conjunction with this triple helix geometry, which I've explained in more detail in my other videos. And so if you put this into a circular motion, you create a magnetic field. Anyways, the subtle notions of the electric field have profound impacts on the human body. And so one of the things with doing body work is understanding how you move energy in the human body. And so with Reiki, polarity, quantum touch, a lot of these energy forms, you're using the hand chakras to move energy throughout the human body. Well, what a wand is it's a tool. It's an extension of the self. And so I'm able to move energy more effectively with the wand than, say, on my own. And then you can also couple the energy work with body work, such as deep tissue massage, neuromuscular therapy, Thai massage, you name it, any form of body work you can apply it to. I personally work with neuromuscular therapy the most. And so I'm going to demonstrate that technique. And with the wands, I shave the tips to make them nice and smooth so you can press them into the body. And so if I was feeling Nico's back here and finding a spot that's tense, and sometimes it's a physical tenseness and sometimes it's an energetic tenseness, usually it's both. And if I find a spot and I want to work it, I use my hands as a diagnostic to find that tension, and then when I get the wand into it, I place my thumb, like so, on the tip of it, and I can work into the knot. I can work into that energy, and that the knots are always reflections of metaphysical ailments within the body, with usually some form of stress or trauma. And I can work into that knot just like with a thumb, but again, this tool is an extension of yourself. The actual copper tip is really wonderful for physically moving the knot. At the same time, I can couple it with my intent, the notion of healing, of releasing that energy. At the same time, I can use my breath to move the energy, which is fundamental in Tantra and energy work in itself. And so one of the things with neuromuscular therapy is if there's tension built up here, I would be pressing into that muscle and working into that muscle. It's almost like I build it in like consecutive layers of pressing harder and harder and harder, to the point where you get to a point where you put a ton of pressure onto that point. And ideally, you're also coupling this with the breath of the person you're working on. Not necessarily, but it really helps to move the energy. And so that's also, it's really helpful when you're working with your partner closely, because then it's just an extension of Tantra in itself, of you both working with your breath. It's harder with clients and people you're saying working on the first time, but if you can couple the breaths together, it's very profound in terms of how the energy is able to move and release. And so as I consecutively build up on the pressure and get to the point where there's I'm at the highest amount of pressure, I hold it in. And so in that moment, I'm also breathing my energy in and having it well, it's not releasing, it's how do I phrase that? I'm providing a vessel for it to release, but doesn't fully release yet. I just can't think of the language in the moment. But when it does release, ideally we're both breathing out at the same time, and usually if you're effectively releasing that energy, your client, your patient, your friend is going to take a deep sigh, deep release, and you're going to release with them. And as you're releasing, you slowly let up on tension with the wand. And this causes a neuromuscular response in the muscle. And so it allows the muscle to relax. This relates to holding a position in yoga, in that if you hold a position for more than 30 seconds and you relax, you can actually allow the muscle to grow, to stretch. But if you just stretch very briefly, it usually snaps back into its original position. And so I can keep moving around, and 1, 2, 3, and then release. And so that's the technique I use with neuromuscular therapy, deep tissue, energy work, and the wand. And so it's a coupling of these practices together to allow the energy to effectively release. And so you can then take this to another level in that there's the sound applied to it. And so we could be playing sound in the background, so we'd be sending a specific frequency into the human body. I can also take a tuning fork and mount it on the end. And eventually want to make some wands where the tuning fork slide perfectly into it, so you can put whatever frequency you want into it, and you will feel that vibrate very powerfully into the human body. And at the same time, there's the notion of what you can do with your own voice. And so I'm not sure if I've shown in videos, but a way to feel it profoundly vibrate acoustically is by resting it right on your voice box and just chanting. And you can do this while working on the human body. And so I've just been exploring chanting intuitively, not with any like scientific basis at the moment. And you can just, and usually I use this end part as a microphone, and this really works good on working with the chakras. So I can even place it like right on the spine, like back of here at the neck, and it's going to send that vibration down into the human spine. And like to add some scientific basis to it is 40 hertz acoustically causes the human bone structure to resonate. And that's one thing to also understand is the entire human skeletal structure is piezoelectric. Bone is piezoelectric, just like quartz, tourmaline, and wood. And so your bone will create electrical pulses on its own. And so you're getting sound and light dancing all throughout this whole process. There's an exchange of energy. 40 hertz is the frequency that strengthens the human skeletal system. It causes the bone to strengthen. And so a cat's purr is actually 40 hertz. So it makes you think of old women having all these cats to help them strengthen their skeletal system. And so that's the primary basis on how to use this. You can also just, just work the body physically, and use your thumb and just do deep tissue massage, working with it, and again having music playing in the background. such as like the solfeggio frequencies. We'll pulse that into the body. You can place it on the third eye, and twice the frequency of 662, that's the light frequency. So the acoustic frequency is 1324 hertz. If I resonated that with my voice or took a tuning fork, it would cause the pineal gland to vibrate and break up the calcification caused by fluoride, calcium hydroxyapatite, something like that. It was pretty much a fluorite crystal, bonds around the pineal gland. And so you can take right frequency therapy and do it intuitively with this simple technology. Because one of the things that people don't even see with this technology is, well, it's just a crystal and it's just a wire, but it's understanding what is the crystal, what makes it a dielectric, what makes it a piezoelectric. These are concepts within material science. The birefrigerants in it. There are so many different optical properties about the quartz, and there's things within multidimensional physics we don't fully understand yet. What makes copper copper as an electrical conductor? It's diamagnetic. How does the Earth's magnetic field interact with it passively all the time? And so this is always interacting with its environment. I'm just putting it in a specific geometry, in a specific form to make use of it. And also to advertise, I do have new holsters to put these guys in that I'm selling for $33. The ones I've increased the prices to $99. With some specialty ones, such as this Smoky from Hallelujah Junction for $111. This is a beautiful, beautiful energy. You could say for the more advanced user. The quartzes are all the basic ones. And I also have, where did it go? I don't know where it went. I had a cool star coil. Oh, here we go. We have the Hexagram. And this is a 3D printed star coil that is copper infused polymer. And so you could place this over, as in the Star of David relates to the heart chakra. I could place this over the heart chakra. And so this is the feminine aspect in relation to this aspect. And so I can take this one, I can start to create a vortex. And that when I'm moving this copper, okay, it interacts with the Earth's magnetic field. This is a scientific fact. The question is, how is it interacting with the Earth's magnetic field? And when I'm spinning this, like so, I'm creating a magnetic vacuum. As in, there's less magnetic field. Even here right now, for me just spinning that, as that vortex starts to decay, and it's an eddy current in the Earth's magnetic field, and then it's just, you just get seamless flow through it again. But when I'm spinning it, I'm creating a vacuum. When I'm creating a vacuum, I'm creating a hole in the etheric flow pressure system of the Earth. The ether is always rising up from the Earth. And so, but everything has like different consistencies, a sponge material. And so when I'm doing this, there's like less sponge material, there's less resistance, which means the ether's flowing up through it greater. This is what trees do, what they facilitate. And so when I'm doing this, I'm creating more of a magnetic vacuum, which means there's more potential and there's less work. And so basic thing in electrical engineering is, or physics in general, is work and energy. Work and energy in electrical engineering is electricity and magnetism. And so I'm creating more potential. If there's more potential for healing. And it takes stagnant energy to build up in this chakra, which you could say is light that's been circulating in it for too long. It's like muddled light. And I'm allowing that light to flow out and new light to come in. And which allows greater potential for the human body to operate. And so this is one thing that is very new to our reality and even just science in general, is understanding how our body uses potential to heal itself, to structure itself, to create itself. And I could go on and on also how to define that potential. I'm going like the electrostatic potential, scalar value, and da-da-da-da, which I'm not going to get into that level of physics in this conversation, keep it more grounded in the metaphysical applications that we're exploring here. And so I'm also planning on taking these guys and electroplating them, and taking a wire-wrapped crystal and putting in the center and plating the whole thing together in creating these new forms of amulets, because the thing about the metal is an amplifier. It's a very powerful amplifier. Just the copper, holding the copper without the crystal alone, has a massive amplification effect. It doesn't have to be even any geometry. And so this plate right here is made out of copper, and just me holding it, actually I'm able to, like, because it's shaped like a dish, I'm focalizing and pushing the energy upwards. This plate was made by my great grandma, by the way, in Santa Monica in the early 1900s, and so I've been carrying on the coppersmith tradition in the family. But the crystals hold programs, they hold intent. And this is what a lot of people could say is heebie-jeebie science, but that's the realm we're moving into, is what is the multidimensional aspect of a crystal? How do the multidimensional aspects of our consciousness interact with this geometry, with this structure of space and time? And so we can very realistically apply it into our reality. A big part of it is our thought constructs we have in place that hinder us from moving into that, such as the beautiful one of the hand chakra, the energy that can be moved from the center of our hand. It's like opening up a sixth sense or a seventh sense. Now we have all these other senses, but we've dictated that we have only 5, and because we have only 5, that's it. And so we're putting ourselves in a box, but there's so much more. And so I opened up my hand chakras 10 years ago, and they've never been closed since. And since then, I've actively been able to work with energy and explore physics and science from an intuitive perception, where before you need all these tools and experiments to figure things out. And so I think that's enough for today. But the main thing I wanted to show was the techniques of what I do with neuromuscular therapy and deep tissue, of using the breath and using intent to move that energy through, and especially if you can resonate your breath and get it in sync with the person you're working on. And trust me, the person you work on will feel it when your breath is in tune and you're moving that energy through the human body in terms of it releasing. And so it's really effective for working with really deep karmic wounds that normally a body worker can't get to, or require a lot more energy work involved. One thing I wanted to add is what's really profound with this whole practice is when you do work with more than one healer. And 3 healers is beautiful because 3 healers add a nonlinear aspect to the healing approach. And that a lot of our systems, as in systems of technology we utilize, they are linear systems. And so we're talking free energy, we're getting into nonlinear systems. But again, all that technology is a reflection of ourselves. And how do we also integrate these nonlinear aspects within ourselves? And so if you have, say, this coil above it, I can create this activation with the wand. We can also do something called stacking of hands. And if you have 3 people stack their hands, you get 6 hands stacked above this. You get a massive nonlinear effect in terms of moving the ether through this point and literally cleansing the heart with new light. And it's the same for sound, in that all the atoms in the human body are vibrating acoustically all the time, but there's standing waves, and there's the same energy all the time being stored within that standing wave. And there's some coming in, there's some decaying out, but for the most part, it's the same energy vibrating acoustically within the human body. And also light. There's light and sound at play all the time within our beings, and it gets stagnant, it gets old, and so there's a process of moving it out. A very simple way to do that is a hot spring. And when it's really cold outside and that you're sitting in the hot spring, the hot water on your lower body, that heat moves up through to the cold, and so the cold pulls out the old energy, the heat moves in the new energy. As in, temperature is nothing more than a storage process of sound. And so there's lots of beautiful different techniques to move the energy through the human body, and we're all capable of doing it. And again, the wands are just an extension of the self. You are the tool, the greatest of the tools, the greatest power available in the universe. It's all you. The human hand is, to me, one of the most beautifully designed things I've come across in our reality. I mean, it embodies the golden ratio, and that itself allows the power of the hand chakras to do what they're capable of doing. So thank you for listening, and you can check me on my website at gregor.ninja, And everyone have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving, and lots of healing and blessings for everyone. Namaste. That came out really good. How do you feel?
I was falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.